Kodak announces a whole new way to make pictures. Introducing disc photography. The beginning is this, a unique film disc. A disc so thin there's room in the camera for an array of precision electronics. The new Kodak disc camera. Picture a brand new world. Press a single button and the new Kodak disc camera does it all. It reads the light. It knows when to flash and can flash again in 1 1/3 seconds. It even advances the film disc automatically, so you can capture those wonderful moments you may have been missing. The new Kodak disc camera. Picture a brand new world. Picture a brand new world.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on Our Own Devices. I'm Jean Messier, and today we're going to be looking at a short-lived trend in consumer photography from the 80s. These are Kodak disc cameras, and if long-term viewers are thinking, wait, didn't I already cover this topic? Yes, I did, but at that time I had only one example to show you. Since then, however, I managed to get my hands on all the other models, so I figured it was time for a redo of that original video. Hey, if Hollywood can get away with endless remakes and reboots, well then, so can I. Anyway, disc cameras were introduced by Kodak in 1982 and were designed to take an unusual and for a while proprietary format of disc film, in which the exposures were arranged around the circumference of a plastic disc, rather like the reels from a Viewmaster stereoscope. As a concept, disc film was a follow-up to the 126 and 110 film cassette formats introduced in the 1960s and 70s, and that it was designed to completely streamline the film loading process. There was no need to pull out the film leader and feed it onto the take-up spool. You just popped in your film cartridge and you were ready to go. And mounting all the exposures on one flat plane not only allowed for a very compact film cartridge, but it also eliminated any potential distortion from using flexible roll film. And using smaller 8 by 10 millimeter exposures allowed the lens assembly to be more compact. All this resulted in a form factor very similar to modern digital point-and-shoot cameras. Indeed, these measured only 4.75 by 3 by 0.75 inches, or for those of us who use a rational system of measurement, 11.5 by 7.5 by 2 centimeters. Kodak saw great potential in this system, with then company chairman Walter Fallon declaring disc film to be the new engine that will drive amateur photography. Indeed, Kodak had so much faith in disc film that they started moving away from regular 35mm film, which had been their bread and butter for decades, and they poured tons of money into their largest advertising campaign to date, even partnering with Disney to promote the disc cameras at the newly opened Epcot Center in Florida. Indeed, for a time, you could actually borrow disc cameras when you visited the park, though of course you had to buy the film cartridges. The initial 1982 line of disc cameras comprised the model 2000, 4000, 6000, and 8000. The 2000, which I don't have an example of here, was the standard model for most of the world, while the 4000, this one, was produced for the North American market. The difference was that the 2000 was powered by a regular 9-volt battery, while the 4000 used 2 integrated 3-volt lithium batteries. These were designed to last 2,000 exposures, or 5 years, translating to around 26 film cartridges per year. And when they finally ran down, you returned the entire camera to Kodak to have the batteries replaced or recharged. The 2000 also had a black finish, while the 4000 was silver. In North America, the Model 4000 sold for $67.95, or around $220 today. Right, so let's have a closer look at the Model 4000. In terms of features, this is really quite simple. In the front, we have a lens and a direct viewfinder, which are protected by a sliding cover, as so. This lens was actually specifically designed for disc cameras and has a 2.5mm focal length and a maximum aperture of f2.8. We also have an electronic flash that recharges in 1 1/3 seconds, a photocell for the automatic exposure system, a direct viewfinder, a shutter with 2 speeds, 1/100th and 1/200th of a second, and an electronic shutter release button. Turning to the back, we have an exposure counter window, and to load the film, you pull back this lever on top. The rear cover hinges open, and you just pop in your film cartridge as so. And that's about it in terms of features and controls. These were designed for maximum user friendliness, so nearly everything was automated. The shutter speed and the flash activation were automatically controlled, while the disc was automatically turned by an electric motor every time you hit the shutter release. So here I have an example of Kodak disc film, which is indeed very compact compared to a regular roll of 35mm film, or even a 126 or 110 format cartridge. Now, since I have no intention of ever shooting this, I'm going to crack open the cartridge case to show you the film disc itself, which holds 15 10x8mm exposures. So whenever you take a picture, the disc rotates 24 degrees. This also includes a dark slide to protect the first and last exposure when loading and unloading the film. The disc also includes a magnetic strip that stores information on print settings, so you can bring the disc back to the lab and have more prints made to the same specifications. The next model in the 1982 lineup was the Model 6000, which was overall very similar to the Model 4000, but with two additional features: a hinged cover to protect the front face of the camera, and a slide-in macro lens for taking close-up shots. And on the inside of the cover, you can see a little distance guide. The macro lens is for objects within 0.5 to 1.2 meters or 1.5 to 4 feet, and the regular lens is for everything else. And these sold for $89.95, or around $290 today. The last entry in the initial lineup, the Model 8000, was the high-end model. As you can see, this features the same hinged cover and sliding macro lens as the Model 6000, as well as a nice gold finish, because who doesn't like gold, a digital LCD travel clock, because why not, and this sliding switch, which allows you to select between timer mode, regular single-shot mode, and 3-shot burst mode, a feature made possible by the camera's electronic shutter and film advance mechanism. And for all this, you could expect to pay $142.95, a whopping $460 in today's money. After the initial lineup, Kodak released 3 more models of disc cameras. The Model 3000, introduced in 1983, was a Model 4000 powered by a replaceable 9-volt battery like in the Model 2000 instead of integrated lithium batteries. The Model 4100, released in 1984, was a Model 4000 with the same folding cover as the Model 6000, while the Teledisc, released in 1985, featured 2 lenses, a regular 12.5mm f4 and a 22mm f5.6 telephoto for taking images farther away. Cleverly, you switch between the two by pushing in the electronic flash as so. As the flash pops out, it rotates the telephoto lens into place and removes the forward section of the 2-part viewfinder lens to match the magnification. And those are all the models of disc cameras that Kodak released in North America. Now, initially, these proved very popular, with Kodak selling 8 million units in 1982 alone. As a result, other companies like Fuji, 3M, and Konica began producing disc film as well as competing disc cameras. Among the more interesting of these was the Minolta Disc 7, introduced in 1983. This not only included a convex mirror on the front surface to allow you to take selfies, but also a precursor to the modern selfie stick, known as the stem. And amusingly enough, the selfie stick actually started out as an example of chindogu, the Japanese art of useless inventions. And to learn more about that, please check out my video on the topic on Today I Found Out, link in the description. But while initially disc cameras were received with great enthusiasm, unfortunately that initial success didn't last. Probably the greatest weakness of disc film was the small size of the exposures, which resulted in very grainy images when enlarged. Now, Kodak did develop a special 6-element enlargement lens for use with disc film, but unfortunately most photo labs didn't adopt this technology, continuing to use the regular 3-element lens designed for use with 35mm film and resulting in inferior products. Furthermore, unlike 35mm film, which could be processed automatically in a mini lab, disc film had to be processed by hand, further disincentivizing lab techs and preventing the technology from reaching its full potential. As a result of all of this, sales of disc cameras fell precipitously after the first year, and Kodak discontinued the cameras in 1988, only 6 years after introducing them, though they did continue to produce film for the existing cameras well into the 1990s. But while disc cameras are considered to be one of the greatest flops in the history of Kodak, it wasn't as bad as most people think. Kodak did succeed in selling 25 million units in only 6 years, so while not a runaway, it was still a success in its day. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time in another video where we'll look at yet more cameras and other fascinating devices just like these. It's not going to be for a little while, though. I'm actually headed on vacation to Vietnam, which should be a lot of fun. So I will be back in early May with yet more videos. Until then, I'm Jean Messier from Our Own Devices. Have a great day.